Now, secondary treatment is also called as biological treatment. The primary effluent is passed into large aeration tanks where it is constantly agitated mechanically and air is pumped into it. This allows vigorous growth of useful aerobic microorganisms into flocs. What are flocs? These are nothing but masses of bacteria associated with fungal filaments to form mesh-like structures. While growing, these aerobic microbes consume the major part of the organic matter in the effluent. So, effluent comes from the primary treatment that you are putting in the secondary plant. And in the secondary plant, because of the vigorous growth of these aerobic microbes which help in formation of flocs, this effluent is treated. This will significantly reduce the BOD of the effluent. What is BOD? It is biochemical oxygen demand. The sewage water is treated till the BOD is reduced. So the BOD of the sewage has to completely reduce to make it less polluting. So the BOD also refers to the amount of the oxygen that would be consumed if all the organic matter in 1 liter of water were oxidized by bacteria. BOD test also measures the rate of uptake of oxygen by microorganisms in a sample of water, and thus indirectly BOD is a measure of the organic matter present in the water. Once the BOD of sewage or wastewater is reduced significantly, the effluent is then passed into a settling tank where the bacterial flocs are allowed to sediment. You can see the effluent tank. This sediment is called as activated sludge. The greater the BOD of wastewater, the more is its polluting potential. So, the less the BOD, the more the pollution being less. A small part of the activated sludge is pumped back into the aeration tank to serve as the inoculum. So, you can see here activated sludge tank and then final sedimentation. The remaining major part of the sludge is pumped into large tanks called as anaerobic sludge digesters. Here, other kinds of bacteria which grow anaerobically digest the aerobic bacteria and the fungi in the sludge. During this digestion, bacteria produce a mixture of gases such as methane, hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide. They produce methane, hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide. These gases form biogas which can be used as a source of energy, or it can be used as a fuel because it is inflammable. So you can see how the waste from the sewage is converted into biogas. This effluent from the secondary treatment plant is generally released into natural water bodies like rivers and streams. Microbes play a major role in treating millions of gallons of wastewater every day across the globe. This methodology has been practiced for more than a century now in almost all parts of the world. However, the number of sewage treatment plants have not increased enough to treat such large quantities. So, the untreated sewage is often discharged directly into rivers, leading to their pollution and an increase in waterborne diseases. The Ministry of Environment and Forest has initiated the Ganga Action Plan and the Yamuna Action Plan to save the major rivers of our country from pollution. Under these plans, it is proposed to build a large number of sewage treatment plants so that only treated sewage can be discharged into the rivers and streams. Microbes can be used to remove toxic substances that are accidentally released into the environment like oil, chemical spills or lands contaminated with toxic waste. This process is known as bioremediation. You can see in the picture, the oil spills or the chemical spills and the toxic waste. Now we are going to learn about microbes in the production of biogas. In the last classes, we have learned about microbes in household products, microbes in industry, and microbes in sewage treatment. So now we are going to learn how they are useful in production of biogas. What is biogas? It is nothing but a mixture of gases which contains predominantly methane produced by the microbial activity, and it is used as a most common fuel. Microbes generally produce different types of gases and products during their growth and metabolism. The type of the gas produced depends upon the microbe and the organic substrate they utilize. You can see in fermentation of dough, cheese making and production of beverages, the main gas produced is carbon dioxide. However, certain bacteria which grow anaerobically on cellulosic material produce large amount of methane along with carbon dioxide and H2. These bacteria are collectively called as methanogens, and one such common bacterium is Methanobacterium. These bacteria are commonly found in the anaerobic sludge during sewage treatment. You can see the slides. These bacteria are also present in the rumen, or which is nothing but a part of the stomach of the cattle. You can see in the picture the rumen of the cattle. A lot of cellulosic material present in the food of cattle is also present in the rumen. That is the digestive part. In rumen, these bacteria help in the breakdown of the cellulose and play an important role in the nutrition of the cattle. Thus, the excreta, that is the dung of cattle, commonly called as gobar, is rich in this bacteria. Dung or gobar can be used for generation of biogas, commonly called as gobar gas. The biogas plants consist of a concrete tank as shown in the picture, in which bio-waste are collected and a slurry of dung is fed into it. A floating cover is placed over the slurry, which keeps on rising as the gas is produced in the tank due to the microbial activity. You can see the pictures in which this is shown. The biogas plant has an outlet which is connected to a pipe to supply biogas to nearby houses. The spent slurry is removed through another outlet and may be used as a fertilizer. Cattle dung is available in large quantities in rural areas where cattle are used for a variety of purposes in agriculture and other ways. So, biogas plants are often built in rural areas. The biogas thus produced is used for cooking as well as for lighting. The technology of biogas production was developed in India mainly due to the efforts of IARI, the full form is Indian Agriculture Research Institute, and Khadi and Village Industries Commission. Now, let us see how microbes are useful as biocontrol agents. Now, what is meant by biocontrol? It is nothing but the use of biological methods for controlling plant diseases and pests. So, that is called as biocontrol. Instead of using the chemicals. In modern society, these problems have been increased by the use of chemicals like insecticides and pesticides. These insecticides and pesticides are toxic and extremely harmful to both human beings and animals. They have been polluting our environment, which is both the soil, ground and water. Our soil is polluted through the use of weedicides to remove weeds. So the weeds will pollute the soil, and these are removed through weedicides. Biological control of pests and diseases. In agriculture, there is a method of controlling pests that relies on natural predation than chemicals. That is, you use naturally occurring microorganisms to help in combating the diseases or the pests rather than the chemicals. Contrary to the conventional farming practices, which often use chemical methods to kill the harmful life forms, this is a holistic approach which will help in developing an understanding of the webs of interaction between the myriad of organisms that constitutes the field of fauna and flora. An important part of the biological farming approach is to become familiar with the various life forms that inhabit the field, predators as well as pests, and also their life cycles, patterns of feeding and the habitats that they prefer. This will help to develop and appreciate means to biocontrol. For example, the very familiar beetle with red and black markings, that is the ladybug and dragonflies, are useful to get rid of aphids, mosquitoes and etc. So the familiar beetle helps in controlling the aphids and mosquitoes. You can see in the slide. An example of microbial biocontrol agent that can be introduced in order to control butterfly caterpillars is the bacteria by name Bacillus thuringiensis, often written as BT. So this bacteria acts as the best biocontrol agent. These are available in sachets as dry spores, which are mixed with water and sprayed onto vulnerable plants such as brassicas and fruit trees, where they are eaten by the insect larvae. In the gut of this larvae, the toxin is released and the larvae gets killed. In that manner, the biocontrol takes place. So you can see in the picture. The bacterial disease will kill the caterpillars but leave other insects unharmed. Because of the development of methods of genetic engineering in the last decade, scientists have introduced Bacillus thuringiensis toxin genes into plants. Such plants are resistant to insect pests. BT cotton, BT brinjal are two such examples of modified crops. It is being cultivated in some states of our country too. A fungus by name Trichoderma, it is also used to control plant diseases. Trichoderma species are free-living fungi which are very common in the ecosystems, that is, especially root ecosystems. Trichoderma are effective biocontrol agents for several plant pathogens. Baculoviruses are pathogens that attack insects and other arthropods. The majority of baculoviruses used as biological control agents are in the genus Nucleopolyhedrovirus. These viruses are excellent candidates for species-specific, narrow-spectrum insecticidal applications. They have been shown to have no negative impacts on plants, mammals, birds, fishes, or even on non-target insects. This is especially desirable when beneficial insects are being conserved to aid in an overall integrated pest management program or when an ecologically sensitive area is being treated. Now let us see in this table the organism, the group and the control or resistant provided towards the disease. The ladybug is the organism, which is an insect. It helps in controlling aphids. Dragonflies, also an insect. It helps in controlling mosquitoes. Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a bacteria. It helps in controlling butterfly caterpillars. Trichoderma, which is a fungi, helps in controlling various plant pathogens. Baculoviruses, which is a virus, helps in controlling insects and other arthropods. Now let us see how microbes are useful as biofertilizers. We all know environmental pollution is a major cause of concern in today's scenario. The use of chemical fertilizers to meet the ever-increasing demand of agricultural produce is one of the major causes of this pollution. We have now realized that there are various problems associated with the overuse of chemical fertilizers. Now, these chemical fertilizers give immense pressure to switch to organic farming by using the biofertilizers. What are biofertilizers? These are organisms which will enrich the nutrient quality of the soil without causing any kind of pollution. The main sources of biofertilizers are microbes, bacteria, fungi and cyanobacteria. We studied about the nodules on the roots of leguminous plants formed by the symbiotic association with rhizobium. You can see the root nodules here in this picture. A clear picture of a root nodule which is inhabited by the rhizobium bacteria. These bacteria will help in fixing atmospheric nitrogen into organic forms which is used by the plant as a nutrient. Other bacteria can also fix atmospheric nitrogen and these are free living in the soil. Thus, they help in enriching the nitrogen content of the soil. Example are Azospirillum and Azotobacter. See the pictures of Azospirillum and Azotobacter. Fungi are also known to form symbiotic association with the roots of higher plants and this association is called as mycorrhiza. Many members of the genus called Glomus form mycorrhiza. You can see the genus Glomus. They help in symbiotic association with the roots of higher plants. The fungal symbiont in this association will help in facilitating the absorption of phosphorus by the plant from the soil. So phosphorus absorption takes place by the plant because of mycorrhiza. Plants having such associations show other benefits also such as resistance to root-borne pathogens, tolerance to salinity and drought. Hence, mycorrhizae promotes overall increase in plant growth and development. In this symbiotic association, fungus also derives sugars and nitrogen-containing compounds from the roots of host plants. Cyanobacteria are autotrophic microbes widely distributed in aquatic and terrestrial environments. You can see the picture of cyanobacteria. Many of them can fix atmospheric nitrogen like Anabaena, nostoc, Oxylistoria. Pictures of Anabaena, nostoc and Oxylistoria are shown in the slide. They help in fixing the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates and nitrites. In paddy fields, cyanobacteria will serve as an important biofertilizer. Blue-green algae also add the organic matter to the soil and increase its fertility. Blue-green algae are nothing but the cyanobacteria. Currently in our country, a number of biofertilizers are available commercially in the market, and farmers use them regularly in their fields to replenish soil nutrients and to reduce dependence on chemical fertilizers, which are very harmful and they cause various kinds of pollution. Now let's see what are the challenges posed by the microbes. There are certain challenges which microbes may pose to human society in future. One of the major one is difficulty to fight against infectious diseases due to over-microbial pathogens evolving into resistance to drugs, particularly the antibiotics which we commonly used in our Indian society. Microbiologists realized that pathogens could mutate to supermicrobes which are resistant to many drugs. So there is a need to find new and effective therapeutics. Microbiologists and epidemiologists are now specially concerned with emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. Now the recently known or actually we can say as the unknown disease which is being faced by the population of Elluru in Andhra Pradesh. Some of the recently emerged diseases are acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, commonly called as AIDS, or mad cow disease, and severe acute respiratory syndrome called SARS. They affect the following organisms. Some of the re-emerging diseases again after being controlled for a long time are cholera, tuberculosis and dengue fever. So these are again re-emerging. Why? Because the microbes have become totally resistant to the already many and most of the times use of antibiotics. One of the major threats to society is bioterrorism. Now what is meant by bioterrorism? It is nothing but the actual use of or the threat to use biological agents in order to spread fear or inflict disease and death upon large population. Now the present COVID-19 also, there are rumors that it is being spread by China. But we don't know, we don't have any proof regarding that. Now let's see what are the advances in genomics and bioinformatics which help in production of rapid detection methods to these bioterror agents and might pave way for the development of new vaccines and therapeutics. Genomics is nothing but a field of study dealing with the determination of the nucleotide sequence of the genome, that is the DNA, and its analysis using computer programs. Bioinformatics is an interdisciplinary field that develops methods and software tools for understanding biological data.